Yo, 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 it's D.Arthur in the building. I'm back at you guys with another video. Amazing. I'm speaking to you guys today about seed retention. You will see everything. You have a sixth sense. And before we start, like keep in mind about these red pill content creators. These red pill content creators that just seem like they have everything figured out. That they just know that they just think that everything that they just know everything. They just know about females and how their nature is and all these things, and they just have everything just so figured out, and you just have to listen to them just because they're on a screen and they think they have information, and you just have to listen to them. And to be honest, the thing is, you have to think for yourself. The bottom line is you have to think for yourself. You have to gauge how a woman is. You can't let some red pill content creator who has no idea what type of situation, what type of circumstance you're in, tell you what you need to do. You have to gauge it for yourself. You really have to gauge things for yourself. You have to try it, and you have to see it for yourself, and then you have to approach in a different way, because if you do things like the same way like the next person, you might be gifted in one area and they might be gifted in an area, but you're all being tested in an area where they might be gifted and you're not as well gifted, and you're all treated the same. But you could be excelling in some different area. It was just a different way of approaching, if that makes sense. Like this, for like an example, is like school. Like, you might be very intuitive, you might be introspective, but you might not be maybe as logical, for an example. But then another person who doesn't have the same abilities as you, maybe they're not as wise, they're just very logical thinking, and they're good with numbers, but you might not be. But you're getting tested the same way, and you might fail the test, but they might pass the test, and then just because of what the grade said, now all of a sudden they're known as better than you. They're known as someone who is smarter, just because they might think a different way. And I mean, if this is how you gauge people, then you have another thing coming, because that's not the correct way to judge someone. That's not the correct way to see if someone is smart or not. I mean, we have people who just think they're just so, oh, they're just smart. But I mean, it really just decides, like, what is your definition of smart. You have to start thinking about all these things. Like, we have so much logical ways of how people gauge a person abilities based on some normal tests, but they could be excelling in one area and the other person is excelling in a different area. But we're only, like I said, we're only getting tested in one area, if that makes sense. So I mean, the bottom line is, like, you have to see things for yourself, because people will test you in different ways, and you can't have your lens. You can't wear the same lens as somebody else. Everybody has different prescriptions, if that makes sense. So other people will see clearly with different prescriptions, if that makes sense. Anyways, seed retention, you will see everything. What do I even mean by this? What do I really mean by this? You will be you will be highly intuitive. Your intuition will be full galore. Every single thing that someone does, every single thing, their habits, their maneuvers, what they say, how they look, what they speak about, you will see right through it. You have a sixth sense. You might even have X-ray vision, if that makes sense, in a sixth sense way. You really start putting two and two together. You are a deep thinker. You start becoming a deep thinker. You have access to source. You have access to Most High. You have access to downloads. You really have a good gauge. You really have a good gauge on why certain things happen, why people act a certain way, why people act out in a certain way. Because the bottom line is just, people are just way too shallow. They're too logical in their way when they think, and they're just shallow. They never really go in deep. They have no in-depth way of thinking. They do not meditate. They can't. Every time someone says something, they take it literally for what it is. They don't have that sixth sense to really start realizing what they could have really meant, if that makes sense. And the thing is, once you start going on semen retention, you might finally figure some of these things out. Because one, your emotional intelligence is through the roof. Your emotional intelligence is through the roof. Like, someone speaks to you, they could be saying one thing, but their body language is saying a totally different thing. And you're going to take the body language just because you just have a sixth sense. You just know, you have your intuition is speaking to you. You start making decisions based off your intuition. You start making decisions based off if people are right for you based on your intuition. And this is powerful because if you follow your intuition, you're probably going to get ahead in life. You have to start following what your gut is telling you, because these are nudges from the Most High to nudge you in the right path. If you don't follow your intuition, you're going to be led astray. You're not going to be as happy. You're not going to be as fulfilled. You have to follow your gut at times. This is pretty important. This is very important, but people might be a little bit too scared to follow themselves. They're too scared to follow themselves because their habits aren't aligned with who they really want to be. If your habits are not aligned with who you want to be, you're going to take other people's word for it because you're not really believing in yourself. Action follows results. So anyways, your energy will speak numbers. And now, just because you're on semen retention doesn't mean that you have to be totally silent. Like, we have all these things saying, oh, you have to be silent. You're silent. People who are silent, they just know more, blah, blah. And that's, to be honest, that's not even the case. It could be, but it's not really the case. Some people are just shy. You have to have high emotional intelligence in every situation. And the way to do this is, see, the thing is, the more you retain, like I said, the energy in the room is going to speak. And the thing is, you have to make other people feel comfortable around you. Because actually, if you don't speak at all in rooms, people might even not like you. People might hate you just because you're not speaking. You're making them feel uncomfortable. You just have to know what the right things to say at the right time. And none of this is taught. You really just have to, either you know it or you don't. If anybody really knows what I'm talking about, please comment down below, I know what you're talking about. Because I don't want to sound like someone who's just talking for no reason. Like, seriously, if you know what I'm talking about, then say you know what I'm talking about. But anyways, like I said, if you're in a room and you just like don't speak and you're just saying, oh, I'm on semen retention, so I don't have to speak, blah blah blah, silence is powerful, all that, bro, like I said, you have to make other people around you feel comfortable. This is the only way they can really get their true selves out there, because the bottom line is people are not going to be their authentic self if they are not comfortable around you. So you have to make people feel comfortable around you. You will see everything. You will see every single thing. You will see why people act the way they do, what their values are, how much in depth they really went into their life. If they just did the same things all the time and never really got anything from it, you will start seeing things. You have a better gauge on what to say. Your emotional intelligence is through the roof. You know how to act. You finally know how to act. You start changing your body language, changing your speak, changing your verbiage based on the people you're interacting with. This is important because you can't talk the same way to maybe your parents as you would to your friends. You can't say the same thing to someone who has these type of beliefs, because because if you're, like I said, if you're in a different vibration than somebody else, you might be saying something to the same person as the next person, but the other person might be receiving what you're saying and actually might be correlating with it. And then the other person literally has no idea what you're talking about, even if they understand the language that you're speaking, if any of this makes sense. So you really have to gauge on how you speak to people. You have to change your verbiage. You have to change the way you're speaking to different people. And you will start doing this better when you're on retention. Your semen retention is is literally the gift from the Most High, and it has its qualities. His qualities are given to you through your, let's say, nut, and now you start acting a certain way to really fulfill your deepest desires, if any of that makes sense. So your intuition, your introspectiveness, how you interact with people, what you can, you'll start avoiding awkward conversations, awkward silences. You start really just gauging people. You start smiling more. You're more enthusiastic. You have better charisma. You're just an all-knowing, better version of yourself, and people will start to be more attracted to you. You can really help. You can really get to a place where you really want to be when you go on retention. So, like I said, follow your intuition, and don't follow your intuition. Pray, meditate on your intuition. Pray to the Most High to give you full knowing of a certain situation, and then follow that instead of following these red pill content creators. These people, they just know so much. They just know every single thing, and then you have to go to them if you have problems. Like, nah, just because they have this, just because they have, I guess, a big following doesn't mean they might know every single thing. You have to follow your gut. You are one with the Most High. The Most High said, isn't it written in your law, ye are gods, you are all sons and daughters of the Most High. So if you are a son and daughter of the Most High, you will go to him with full expectation that whatever you're asking for will be granted to you. So you don't have to follow anybody else's, way of how you should interact. You have to follow what the Most High told you to do. If that makes sense. You have to follow your intuition. He will lead you to the straight and narrow path. So yes, your values change. Who you are changes. What you're becoming changes. You start thinking. The bottom line is people are just not thinking. They can never really be locked in their room, meditate, and ask for guidance. They just have to follow some human's way of doing things. And the thing is, you might be 50% fulfilled, but you're never going to be 150% fulfilled. You have to be 100% plus fulfilled in every single thing about your life, because this life can be a very good thing if you follow and conquer the path that you are meant to go and conquer. But if you're following some other person's path, 50% path, sure, you might be happy, sure, you might have material things, sure, you might be doing quote unquote well in this reality, but you're not really going all in. You're not going fully in to the things that you really need to do to really complete your soul mission, your soul path. The path that was given and granted to you by the Most High. Before you were put on this physical reality, you had a mission, you had a sole purpose to fulfill on this physical earth. And the way you can hack into that is by connecting to the Most High. His thoughts will be aligned with your thoughts. He will be like you. You were made in the image of him. So you have to follow him instead of following these red pill content creators or these people who just say they just know so much. They don't really know that much. All they know is what was given to them. They're not finding things out for themselves, if that makes sense. And semen retention will finally give you this power to finally give you this courage to follow the path that was given to you, if that makes sense. So yes, the red pill, the blue pill, there's no pill. You take the pill that you are meant to have. Like the video, comment, subscribe. And if you have any questions about metaphysical, law of attraction, anything like that, make sure you submit a question down below, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.